Hello and welcome. You're watching FYI. I am Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. If you, like several one of us, has been dealing with issues in your online payment, in your loans, some UPI you made went to the wrong person, any other sort of transaction with your credit card as well, any kind of mortgage issue as well, what do? You go to independent agencies, you sort of track down the bank, you get after their lives on trying to resolve the matter, etc. Now, there is big breaking news for you, because in this country now there will be one stop for all sorts of financial complaints related to the RBI. There's a new scheme that has been brought in, already launched by the Prime Minister as well, where they talk about how there will be now this one nation, one ombudsman as well. So what's the delay? Let's get started with our explainer. Some basics first, let's cover that. Well, the scheme is based on one nation, one ombudsman, which basically means that the RBI will merge. At the present, there are three ombudsmen. Okay, there is one for banks, there is one for NBFCS, and then there is one for digital transactions. All these three now combined into one. What will this do? This will improve grievance redressal for consumer complaints as well. It aims at changing the way household sector, investments, etc. complaints are lodged in this area. And of course, this will lead to quicker resolution of these complaints as well. Consumers can now approach the ombudsman for if the bank concerned, and this is important, does not resolve the grievance within 30 days. How will you do it? We'll tell you in the course of the program as well. But at the moment, there is also talks of a toll-free number that will be available very, very soon for all customers. It will be multilingual as well. This will prevent financial crime, catching cyber fraud as well through artificial intelligence, and also promises to encourage investor trust. Includes non-scheduled primary cooperative banks with a deposit size of 50 crore, and above all major banks will be covered essentially in this. How will this work? Well, it will be a single point of reference. We'll have one portal, one email for customers to sort of put in their complaint as well. You can submit documents, you can track the status over there as well, and you will receive and get feedback based on how your complaint has moved, which stage is it at basically. Redressal will continue to be cost-free for customers, for banks and members of the public as well. So, what is that big website that we're looking at? Take a screenshot, take a picture of what you're seeing and the email that you see on your screen right now. To file a complaint, all you have to do is visit this website. It is cms.rbi.org.in. There is also a dedicated email, which is crpc@rbi.org.in. These are currently the emails that you need to write into if you have any issue. There will be a toll-free number, we are told, coming in very, very soon. Complaints can also be filed with a physical letter, by the way, that you can submit to the RBI, and then they take it upon themselves to sort of segregate and decide which department it goes to, and not leaving it on you, the customer, to keep dialing in multiple numbers to figure out which category you fall under, who to get after, how to sort of pursue your case as well. Some of the other features that you need to know about this, that it will be no longer necessary for the complainant to identify under which scheme. Like I said, they need to file a complaint as well. It will ensure complaints do not go unaddressed or rejected simply on account of not covered under any grounds, etc. So essentially, there will be a number and there will be an email. You put in your request over there, you talk about what your issue is, and then there is a tracking mechanism that will tell you step by step where your complaint is. Now, very ambitious plan by the RBI, much needed as well, as many are saying. But what exactly are some of the things that we need to look at in a scheme like this? To talk about that, joining us on FYI today is Sanchita Mukherjee, Senior Finance Professional, Jyoti Prakash Gadia, Managing Director, Resurgent India. We have Sonam Srivastava with us, Founder, Right Research, which is SEBI Registered Investment Advisor as well. And also with us is Nasir. Hi Nasir, welcome back to FYI. He's a Managing Partner at Flexi Capital. Sanchita, let me begin with you. Much needed, much talked about. How soon can we actually see this in action? Do you have any update that we haven't managed to pick up so far? And also, how do you believe this to change the way India is actually looking at grievance redressal, especially when it comes to financial issues?
Good evening.
Thank you so much.
Sanchita, Nasir, I'll come to you next.
Thanks, Sonal. What we are witnessing right now is that, the Indian economy has undergone a significant formalization in the last 5 years. And it has been immense, post the pandemic. If you were to really see the lifestyle of people, their choices, the immense amount of digitalization that has happened. UPI transactions have jumped almost 70 times in last 4 years. So it is high time that we actually move towards this kind of progressive steps. And I must applaud the central bank for coming up with such a dynamic, progressive step in terms of addressing consumer redressal. 3 of those ombudsmen under one umbrella ombudsman.
Right.
For example, data analysis, analyzing this data, having a central bank repository. These are the need of the hour and it's a very good move. If you are to see, the UK government has the requisition of calling up for data from telecommunications and related data when it comes to the pandemic management. Similarly, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, for example, has set up a cloud for public policy in terms of analyzing data of financial institutions to make it more transparent, more efficient. So I think this is a very great move by the central bank because that's a need of the hour given UPI transactions, digitization, the Indian consumer which wants everything at the click of a button. They don't even wait for a POS machine or authentications. So this kind of data management and for public policy making as well as for consumer redressal is very, very wanted and it's a very welcome move. I'm very, very impressed by this.
Right. Let me go to Nasir next. Nasir, then when people look at financial issues, what are the most common financial issues that people will have? One will be my payment got stuck, it got debited from my account, never reached the payment gateway altogether. That is the most common issue that people face. Then that is followed by several other online payments being stuck, loans, etc. If you could just simplify for our viewers what falls under this category, and is there still some issue that perhaps will not come under the RBI? Maybe that will be a good key to see what you can approach the RBI with and what cannot.
Good evening, Sonal. Yes, the way we see it is that, I completely agree with my colleague Sanchita. I think, she's correct when it comes to saying that, there is much that was required to be done on this platform. I think the only point that I want to say, Sonal, is that obviously digital transactions is something which is going to lead the next generation. And it's going to be dominated by a lot of millennials looking at only digital transactions. Talk about the next 4 or 5 years, you'll see a lot of change there. I think the biggest challenge we see is that, which they're trying to address at the RBI level, is trying to amalgamate the Ombudsman scheme that they launched in 2006, which was pure banking, play, which was basically loans, credit card issues, pure banking products, mortgages as a challenge, some of these which represent key banking subsets and products of each other. The second one was, of course, 2018, where they launched Ombudsman scheme for NBFCs in 2018. So Ombudsman were launched in 2018 for NBFCs dedicatedly. I think this is again something which is, NBFCs, I must tell you, interestingly, are a very interesting, engines for loans, right? And therefore come in with huge amount of issues in terms of disbursals, delayed disbursal, higher lending rates. What has been communicated may not have been the case for a lot of clients. We don't understand it really well. And some of those challenges that was has been done in 2018 to kind of address those issues. And of course, the last one was 2019, the Ombudsman scheme for digital transactions. Now, what kind of transactions per se, broadly as a banker, I can tell you as a former banker, I tell you a lot of issues that used to come around credit cards. Again, digital transactions, right? There used to be huge complaints coming in there. Certain hidden charges were not mentioned to clients when they were looking at using those credit cards. Certain recurring charges were being made, which has also been addressed partially by RBI now. So I think all of these put together And of course, again, now, Sonal, not to forget, we're also getting into the, in the JFM quarter, which is Q4 of 2021, where we're looking at sort of people using LRS as a route to transfer money. I think that's again something where, a lot of complaints come in to banks saying that, you've been kind of charged a very high rate on exchange. So again, something like this can again be used as a format to push those complaints. I'm sure banks will not be very happy for me seeing this on your show, but they better be careful now. Having said that, obviously this is something which one can use. And this is one thing, Sonal, which I think I was listening to you when you started the show. They have launched a toll-free number, incidentally. I can voice it out to you if you want. It's 14448. That's the number that you can use to file a complaint. I repeat it again. It's 14448. And of course, the fact is that this scheme, by the very fact has been amalgamated, is also jurisdiction neutral. And you'll be given a centralized receipt. The facility that is being set up, I'm given to understand, is in Chandigarh. So it's a centralized receipt and processing center, which has been set up by the RBI, and again, will act as a very important step towards transparency.
Okay, 14448. We'll do a quick test on that number as well and see how things are moving on that front as well. But Jyoti has been listening in very carefully on what's happening. Your thoughts on which way this is going?
So Sonal just wanted to highlight one important point, was that this banking scheme, redressal scheme, was I think it was running around from 2006 onwards. And there is one thing which this scheme doesn't capture, is that the commercial judgment of the regulated entity, you cannot complain against that. So in that line, what happens that 90% of the commercial decision or the judgment, you cannot complain against it. So 90% of the complainant, the RBI comes back and say that it is not covered under this purview. So same line is still maintained in this act itself. That line has not changed. That commercial decisions / judgment is, you cannot file a complaint against that. So all the NBFCs or anything, sir, whatever, that they might have charged something extra, or they might have charged some interest extra, they may not be giving me the loan disbursement in time, or documentation charges, whatever is that. So if there is any charges word is involved, so you cannot, basically they will just line up something and they will come and tell that you cannot complain against that. So how can we address that issue? Because 90% of the complaint are relating to excess payment or something. There is some dispute regarding that. This is one thing that I want to highlight.
Nasir has something to say about that. Nasir?
Yeah, Nasir.
So just to what I think is a very important point he's raised. But there is there is an appellate authority which is after the RBI's decision on this, and that appellate authority is, by the way, it's called the Consumer Education and Protection Department, and would be the appellate authority under the integrated scheme. So also, I mean, obviously, this is going to be the final step which will decide. But I agree to your point, Jyoti ji, because obviously, as a first step on issues related to pricing and certain commercial transactions, it's a non-starter. But there is an appellate authority which has been put in place.
Okay, I don't want to get trapped on this issue on commercial decisions as well. Let's take a quick break. I know Sonam has been waiting in very patiently. We'll get to her and take her comments on the other side. Stay tuned. You're watching FYI. Welcome back. Let's get a quick response from Sonam as well on this One Nation, One Ombudsman. Sonam.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Sonal. Yeah, so I think, this policy has come at a very pertinent time, when people are talking about Paytm and, the fintech space growing at a very rapid pace in the next 5 years, right? And, what would be key for, fintech to grow at that pace would be that people sort of trust the system. And this is perfect. If it works out, it would be what would, help fintech reach the growth that it is projecting. And like the Prime Minister said in his speech that, grievance addressal is the key and cornerstone of democracy, right? People sort of trust banking because, they know that, their grievances will be addressed. Right. So I think this is a great policy to come at this time. And I think execution will be the key thing, how it pans out, how effective it is, would be what we have to wait and watch, I guess.
Right. I want to go to Sanchita next. Sanchita, you know, even when the Prime Minister announced this, it's coming at the atmosphere when in the past couple of years we've been marred by these bank scams. People are sort of wondering what to do next. And an atmosphere like this, much needed. Again, the question is, who does the owners go to? Should there have been, I'm just trying to think over here as a customer who has an issue, should have there been a time-limited approach over here that, okay, within these many days, like you have an RTI or something else, that in case there is no redressal, you know, you have somebody sort of get back to you, you know exactly where your complaint is, what the next step is going to be, or is it too early for us to sort of contemplate all of that?
I'm so happy you raised this point, Sonal, because this was exactly what I wanted to highlight. A very key point which all your viewers must understand is earlier there was never any accountability in terms of the timeline to hit the nail here. But here, this scheme actually prescribes a 15-day timeline for the regulated entity to furnish the information and documents to the office of the Ombudsman, as against being none, which was there before this. So if they do not furnish the documents within that 15 days window, they actually stand to lose the right to appeal in cases where an award is issued to the client or the investor against that particular institution or entity.
I see.
So that is a very welcome move, that 15-day window.
Right. But can I just get more clarity over there? In the FAQs that we saw in the RBI website that they've put out as well, they said that 30 days you need to first go to your bank, address it with them and then approach the RBI, or is there a confusion over there?
I would have to go through the nitty-gritties of the detailing.
Okay, Nasir, okay, yeah.
No, so what the mandate is very clear is, Sonal, what they're saying is that if you don't get a response within 30 days, either a response or the issue has not been addressed, then you can come and raise this to the integrated scheme. That's what it clarifies, basically.
I see. So I got to first raise it up with my bank or the agency, and only if it's past a period of a month, then I go to the RBI and then I tell them this has not either been addressed or this has not been looked into.
Not been responded to.
Right.
So Sonal, there is a nodal officer at every bank and there's a principal officer. So you need to first raise it to the nodal officer, and then it's basically in stages. And every bank, I must say, is also part of the RBI mandate in terms of controls and compliance. But they say that you need to raise it to the nodal officer and then the principal officer. And that's how it gets escalated. If you don't get a response from them, ideally, within 30 days of any acknowledgement or resolution, then you can easily approach the integrated system.
Right. The important point you mentioned is even if the issue is not addressed, even in that case within 30 days, because a lot of back and forth happens with the bank and you're still sitting, you know, pretty much at the beginning of the conversation over there. Quick last comments. Jyoti, if you can take that.
I just wanted to say that this is a right scheme because in the first time the banks, NBFC and all the payment system, they are all integrated into one. So that the buck cannot be passed on from one agency to the another, because the backbone of all the three agencies are interconnected to each other. So that's the genesis, and that's the good point that they have tried to mention, because otherwise what was happening, they could come and say ki inhone nahi kiya, unhone nahi kiya. So those are the things which they have not been taken into account. I think so with some of the delivery channel partners of the bank should also be taken into account, like the banking correspondent and others, whether those are covered, because those are the entities which are appointed by the bank itself for the last mile connectivity, like banking correspondent. So banking correspondents are also an important entity. Whether those are included or not, that was not very clear to me through this. I think so. If those are not included,
and what about payment gateways? Would they be included?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Nasimba.
Okay, Sanchita had a point.
Just very quickly, it was sometimes seen previously that there are different decisions in similar cases with pertaining to these three different ombudsmen. The idea of bringing in uniformity is that there is a CMS database, right, which will be used as the backend for analysis of all past decisions, bringing in the uniformity and consistency in decision making across these three verticals.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's all the time we have on this. It seems on the face of it a very, very promising effort by the government and by the bank as well. We wait to see how this number is going to pan out. Safe to say there will be some teething issues in the beginning, but the fact that we're doing this and we hope the information gets out there and more people get to use it. If you do use it, let us know how your experience was and we'll be happy to feature that on FYI as well. That's it from today. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.